Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Decoding Digital with me, Leon Calverley. Today, this is See, Think, Do, Care, and I'm going to be joined by our very special guest, Andrew Thomas, that we'll bring in a minute. Today, we're going to be exploring the marketing framework developed by Google called See, Think, Do, Care, which is around creating content and campaigns for every stage of the buyer's journey. Two of us will be speaking today. Andrew will be presenting his take on the 21st century buyer's journey, and then I'll be bringing in content and discussing some more practical applications of how See, Think, Do, Care can help your brand and can help your business. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our very special guest, Andrew, who's going to come in and join us this morning. We'll be here for about 45 minutes today, and hopefully it'll be a great use of your time. Hopefully there'll be some great nuggets for you to take away. And the recording of today will be available on the Door4 website afterwards. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Leon. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you, on this beautiful sunny day. How are things in your part of the world?
Yes, not too bad at all, thank you. As beautiful and sunny as with you. Seems a bit strange to be spending a Friday morning talking about customer journeys when perhaps we should be taking other journeys to the seaside or to the countryside, but let's hope that over the next hour we can engage our listeners and watchers and joiners in reflection and to think about how they can communicate more effectively, perhaps with their audiences.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Well, we'll see you on the beach at 11:30 a.m. and maybe some of our guests will come and join us. So a quick note on the format. I'm going to hand over to Andrew in a moment, who's going to introduce the first piece of content. In terms of housekeeping, there are no fire alarms planned, obviously, this morning, but we have the chat is open. You're welcome to put comments in chat, and we really encourage you to use the Q&A feature, which is the button at the bottom of Zoom. If you're in Zoom, that allows you to ask questions to myself and to Andrew. We'll tackle those questions at the end when both Andrew and I have spoken. So just by way of a brief introduction, Andrew may tell you a little bit more. Andrew is a Google-accredited trainer working with enterprise organizations around the globe, improving marketing best practice and delivering digital transformation. So if anybody's qualified to really talk about the See, Think, Do, Care framework and how it can impact and improve, optimize businesses, brands and retailers, then it is our guest, Andrew, today. So with that, Andrew, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to jump out and I'm going to let you speak to our audience for 20 minutes or as long as it takes.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen with everybody so we can look at the slides. Yes, as Leon has said, I'm a sort of contracted trainer for the Google Digital Academy through Avado. I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5, 6 years. I mean, my background is marketing agency. I spend most of my working life working agency side, but also client side, and took a media business through a sale process in 2007, and really worked as a business coach, digital transformation coach since then. And so whilst I haven't been working in marketing as long as perhaps the whole period I want to talk about, it's a significant chunk of that. And as I said, the topic for today is to really think about the customer journey in this digital age, and certainly how that has evolved over the last 20 years or so. And in particular, how I think it's fundamentally shaken our belief in terms of marketing, advertising, targeting, and communicating effectively to grow our businesses. And that's really what we're going to be covering. But what I'd like us to do is I'd like to go right back over 100 years, because our journey does start this morning over 100 years ago. And I'd like to know whether anybody perhaps understands the significance of 1898 as a date in the context of marketing and advertising. And if anybody wants to drop in the chat why 1898 is significant, well, please do so. I'm told that we should always pause when we're waiting for interaction with our audience for 7 seconds. So if anybody's got anything, please type it into the chat. But 1898 is, I think, where our journey begins in terms of the fundamental understanding of the customer journey and how we've tried to codify it. Okay, well, if people think that are mystified by why I've chosen 1898, well, perhaps it's something to do with this chap. So I'll ask again, anybody any idea who this chap is? I'll give you a hint. He's American. I'll give you another hint. He was born, raised, and set up his first advertising agency in Philadelphia. Well, in fact, this chap is Elias St. Elmo Lewis, and he is the person who is accredited with our initial attempts at understanding how we need to communicate effectively with people. He is responsible for building what we now know as the AIDA model, and in around about 1920 was codified as the funnel model for advertising. And what Elias said is effectively, we needed to create some awareness of the products and services that you were looking to sell, which then would help you develop some interest, some desire, and then action. And we talk about this as the funnel. The funnel has become arguably the go-to expression for how we look at our customers and how we look to communicate with our customers throughout, should we say, the buying process or their journey or interaction with our brand. I think it clearly has been significant, whether we call it the marketing funnel and or the sales funnel, and a really interesting representation of this as to why it was so important to communicate, shall we say, in a multi-layered way, was an ad that some of you may be familiar with, that was produced by the trade publishers McGraw-Hill back in the 1960s. And this very famous, should we say, grumpy buyer is feeding back to a salesman sat in front of him. I don't know who you are, I don't know your company, I don't know your company's product, etc., etc. Now, what was it that you wanted to sell to me? And I think that this in itself sort of said very clearly that, look, if somebody is going to engage in a buying relationship with you, they need to know an awful lot more about what you stand for and who you are, other than maybe the features of the products that they see in front of them. And I think probably you could argue that this substantiated the approach that we took to developing communication, the usefulness of the marketing funnel, probably right up until maybe the mid 1990s, maybe into the late 1990s. But I think it's fair to say that, as a tool or as a model, it might describe a buying or selling process, but I'd like to hypothesize to you that it never really represented buyer behavior. It certainly doesn't today, and I would argue that it never did. Why is that? Well, because when I look at that funnel, it looks quite rigid. It looks as though you can only go one way, because have you ever seen anybody try and climb up a funnel? No, only when marketers or advertisers turn that funnel on its side, which in itself is indicative that when you alter the orientation of the funnel, that maybe it's not quite fit for purpose. But I think that what it does is it on the one hand helps you think about the sorts of things that we need to communicate to be able to drive or encourage people along the journey. But it's not it's as I say, it's helpful from a process perspective, but not from a buyer perspective. Why? Well, because we're all human beings. I still haven't seen a machine or even an AI-powered machine that signed a purchase order or actually confirmed the buying of something in specific. So what we're saying is that there are human beings probably at the root or the heart of most buying and selling decisions that we're likely to encounter. And as we know, human beings are irrational, inconsistent, indecisive, impulsive, and fundamentally unpredictable. They don't like being shoved into the top of a hopper of a funnel. And I think that what this shows is that in the absence of anything else, the funnel has been very useful to help make us think customer first, think about what our customers might need to hear from us and when. So that's where I think it has a big plus. However, it doesn't necessarily tell us what a particular individual in our target market might be interested in or might want to hear from us at any one particular point in time. And I think that when we think about this, what I really mean is relevance. You know, has it really helped us make our communication as relevant as it possibly can be at any one point in time? The other thing I'm inclined to think is that actually, although on the one hand, the funnel has helped us think from a customer centricity perspective, if you take that to perhaps a logical conclusion, it means that we become utterly wrapped up in the shape, look, and feel of our customer segments, and perhaps has driven us a little bit too far. Because what I think it does tend to do is that actually it's made us think about personas, and and I'm as guilty of it as anybody over my life and career. We build up these storyboards, these pictures. We even give these people names, and it's a myth. They don't exist. And there is a very easy route to slipping into unconscious bias, because what we are now doing is that we're thinking that we've built a persona, we've built a customer segment, we think we know what they need to know from us, and actually all that we've done is perhaps built at best a picture of people who are likely to buy from us. Well, actually that concept of likelihood is useful, but in a digital age is not enough. You know, because actually in a digital age, and certainly from the millennium onwards, we are now really able to understand the level of intent an individual has to buy from us or to engage with us through actions that we can measure and monitor through their activity. And when you consider that, you've got to realize that actually that is far more powerful than any myth or segmentation approach that we might have taken on demographics or geodemographics historically. And what this says to us is that in an analog AIDA-assisted world, I think all that we could hope for was the work that we did around customer segmentation, customer analysis, building personas. But in a data-driven digital world, it's very, very different. And that, as we said, in a data-driven world, every time a consumer or a potential customer of any hue does something, they leave a digital trail. They leave a digital trail or breadcrumbs or cookies that show us what level of intent somebody has to engage with us and potentially what they're looking to do at that point in time. And this, I think, is the paradigm shift, is that actually in the digital age, we should be looking at what people want to do, the jobs that they want to do, rather than the characteristics of the individuals themselves. Because if we look at the job somebody needs to do in our category, in our context at any one point in time, we are likely to create more relevant communication, and greater relevancy leads to probably stronger engagement and actually an improved relationship through the customer journey. So this is it. So this is I think that when we talk about data being the fuel or the oil of the digital economy, I think it's for this reason. It's the reason that for us as marketers is that data has become that signal of customer behavior and intent. The data actually signals what somebody is looking to achieve at any one point in time. And it gives us huge insight into the customer's journey to satisfy their needs and wants, or the jobs that they need to do in a particular point in time. And arguably, that's why this data, the digital platforms, digital channels, have almost, not completely, made targeting and segmentation an irrelevance, because actually what you're able to see are those people who are wanting to engage with the type of content, the type of brands that you are at any one point in time through their digital activity, through the crumbs of data that they leave behind. And that's why what we found is that, early on, maybe that was quite useful, but actually it's become a problem for us too. Is because as the internet has grown, it's transformed from a tool from just looking for stuff, from actually means that everything that we do is done on this platform. Everything that we need to produce, act upon, consume, and arguably AI is only going to embed this further and remove even more mundane tasks accordingly. And actually, it's become very, very messy. You could argue that there's too much data, or we're not able to activate this data to make marketing decisions because it's become very, very messy. And there's a really good article that I've sourced here on Think with Google around navigating purchase decision and purchase behavior and decision making. And what it describes is that actually there's a very, very messy middle. Depending on how an individual is exposed to a marketing message that you may have put out there, or anything that they may have seen on a digital platform, and then you might be triggered to do something. There's a whole load of activity that actually is involved in this really messy middle of consumption of media before actually a purchase takes place or some form of act. And this messy middle arguably is characterized by search, content reading, social media engagement, likes, views, whatever the case may be. And of course, what this demonstrates is that actually your normal decision between being triggered by, an event to buy or to consume or to do something, there are many, many things that are actually going to influence you along the way. And you can see now why the rather slick, linear, slip-down AIDA model doesn't represent how we behave at all these days, whether that is a consumer or a commercial or business-to-business engagement or purchase. Now, you may well think, I can see now how complex this is and why this is a really messy middle. So what we need to do is we need to think about codifying this. And this is what the research from Google has done. It is trying to codify this journey by looking at this in the context of 4 E's. So what we're saying is that you might be exposed, either interrupted through your social channels, or something you may have searched out for yourself, or something you may have shared. You've been exposed to a piece of communication. And that may or may not trigger a process, this infinity loop of exploring and evaluating, further exploration, further evaluation, which is arguably the crux of our journey, where we are looking to deliver content, share content, tell stories that hopefully will then precipitate a launching off point, so when we may experience or act upon that brand's activity, or we've called it here the purchase process. So what we need to think about, is there something that can further codify what's going on between exploration and evaluation? And the useful way of looking at that is to say, well, what's going on inside that loop? Well, this is what's going on inside this loop. People are doing stuff. They are finding things out. They are their jobs that they're doing. They are trying to satisfy a series of wants and needs. We talk about these as moments of intent. It's an expression that we talk about as moments of intent. I want to do something. I'm not now just likely to be find your brand appealing in communication with. I'm actually doing stuff. So Google has codified these into 4 areas. I want to know, I want to go, I want to do, and I want to buy moments. And what I'd like to posit to you is this, is that the brands and companies that appreciate this realize what people want to do when they're in these moments and provide them with the information that they need, will deepen, broaden the relationship and be invited along the customer's journey to a natural conclusion. And that's where this model comes into it. This is what we're saying, is that when we look at this journey, we're seeing a different kind of process, not a funnel, but we see that in the moments customers are completing these jobs, right through the moment of purchase. And we've split down this journey, or shall we say Avinash Kushnek, who was Google's digital evangelist, has split down this journey into 4 phases: see, think, do, and care. See, think, do, care. And yes, it's analogous to, you might call, awareness, interest, desire, action. But what we're talking about here is a process or a breakdown of the customer journey that is based upon intent. So we may have identified a customer segment, or we may have qualified an audience, but what we don't know is how much intent they have. You know, they may say, I want to reach people who are looking to buy a new car because they're having a baby, their life stage is changing. But, you know, that's all very well and good, but you don't know whether they've just found out, whether they're 9 months in, whether the baby's due this week, whether it's their first child or whether it's their second child, where do they live? The whole thing is that just understanding the likelihood of that segment to buy your new model doesn't really help you from a communication perspective. What does is to say, well, they might be likely to buy from us, but they don't know about us. They may have no interest. Then they may have some interest. Then they have lots of interest. And then actually they see everything that they would do and become an advocate for us. And this is the thing here, is that what we find is this new model is that they are qualified, but they have no intent. So we think they're likely to buy from us. We've done, you know, we looked at our own customers. We're trying to look at a lookalike audience, but actually we don't know whether they know anything about us. So why don't we float something out there, and then actually may prick people's attention, and then they have some intent and they'd look to find out more. And then actually when they reach a stage and say they made a decision that yes, they want to buy from us, they want a different round of information. And then if you think about, well, you may want to sell something else to them or other features or get them to upgrade, we go further again. So what we're talking about is that in the early stage, we need to grab somebody's attention. Our communication needs to be inspiring, surprising, and entertaining. You might call that your classical television brand awareness activity. And yes, it is. But I'd like to frame in the context of awareness as just awareness. It means nothing until you actually move people to engage with them. And that's when we're talking about the brand engagement spans this see and think, where they think, that's interesting. I'd like to find out more. And that's where we're talking about building informative, helpful, convincing content. Arguably, the think phase is the crux for content marketing in this digital world, because here we're looking to encourage people to spend time with us and our brand. And when we've done that, we get into the sharp end. We talk about the do phase. The do phase is they're convinced they want to buy from you. So this is, really the action, the money stage. This is where we need helpful information, make them well aware where they can engage with you, buy from you, and make it actionable. And then in the care phase, and which is particularly interesting, I think, in the current economy and society they're living in, is that actually, while you may not be many new customers, we don't want to lose those customers that we've already got. So really what we're looking to here is to support them and think that they've made the right choice. We complement them. And actually we try to encourage them to create more advocacy for us. So this is what this model is all about. We need a consistent tone of voice. We need to make sure we understand our value proposition and how we create value for those customers across the journey. But what we're looking for is we're looking for the signals of intent through the digital activity that we're monitoring and the data that we capture, and making sure that we heighten the relevancy of our communication to this sort of model, to this stage of the journey, and appreciate that people move back and forth. And what this means is that we are thinking about it as not a robotic funnel that shoves people down or people slip down. It's a dynamic, data-driven engagement model that we're looking at. So really, in summary, that's what this see, think, do, care model is all about. Clearly, we still need to think very carefully about our customers, customer centricity. What are their needs and what might that characterize their journey? So looking at your customer, doing something like empathy mapping may be very, very important to change the lens, to look at things from a customer's perspective, i.e. outside looking in rather than inside your business looking out. And what we're talking about is branding is still very, very important, and awareness of your brand is clearly important in the C phase. But you've got to bear in mind, so much has been bought and sold without anybody being aware of a brand in this digital world. And we talk about how we buy on social media, that we've got to stop thinking that we've got to build brand awareness first. We haven't. We've got to understand the customer journey and what people's needs are and what they might be looking for, and put our content in front of people at that point. So whilst I say your brand is important, you need to align your values and purpose with the customer needs. That, I would argue, is more important. And that's what I would think now in terms of when we approach the concept of branding, that's really what we mean. And so your marketing plan needs to engage your potential customers with those relevant messages through the correct channels at the right time. Relevancy is absolutely key. And you do this by activating the data that you have within your business. And as we say, it's certainly the shift towards first-party data via your own websites and via your media partners as well. And what you're looking to think is, where are the key moments on the customer journey? What do they want to know? And how do you fulfill that need with relevant content that drives intent in the platform they're looking for? So you make sure you hit that relevancy sweet spot and overlap your goals with those customer needs. And the final part I'd like to leave you with is that if you drive intent, you'll create demand. Demand drives growth, business growth for you. And therefore, don't think just about likelihood. Likelihood is still important, but it's driving intent now in this digital world that will help you grow your business. Leon, I'm going to stop there and hand over to you. And then I'm sure we'll pick up. This is loads of stuff, I think, coming through on the chat. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably address that. Even just to Greg's point there, would you have all these campaigns running in parallel? Absolutely. Of course you would, because there are different people within your customer segment with different levels of intent at that point in time. Didn't say it was going to get any easier, did we?
Great stuff. Thank you ever so much for that, Andrew. That's excellent. We'll come back and bring you back in towards the end where we bring the Q&A. And just as a reminder to everybody watching this in Zoom, do drop your questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. So anything that you want to ask Andrew or myself, drop into the chat. So thanks for now, Andrew. I'll pick up now with my piece of the presentation today. We're going to be talking about increasing engagements and ultimately conversions by using the See, Think, Do, Care framework in a practical manner with our everyday marketing plan. So I'm going to pull my slides up if I may. So I am, by way of introduction, I'm Leon Calverley. I'm the founder of Door4. We're a performance agency based here in Lancashire. We were formed in 2000. So we deliver strategic and tactical services to brands and retailers, very much digital first brands, retailers, platforms, B2B, B2C, around home and garden, automotive, family sector, and software as a service. Today, we're going to be looking at a few topics. So we'll do a primer on See, Think, Do, Care, which Andrew was leaning on there, which is the topic of today's title. We'll run through a working example and what that really means for a particular type of brand. We'll look at the moments that matter, as Andrew touched on. We'll talk about how personas turn into micro moments when we come into working out how to target our users, particularly in around the think stages. And then we'll summarize. So without further ado, marketers are tasked with distributing messages to audiences, and we like to break apart the myth that everybody is a customer. You look at many small businesses and who do you want to target? Well, everybody. And it's just this incorrect, because defining that target audience is a central part of all marketing activity. But in reality, even our target audience aren't always ready to buy. Shouting that same message, that same generic content to everybody that we can define as a potential customer is going to be a waste of voice and a waste of our resources. So even if it is everybody, even if we could hypothetically sell our product, our service to everybody, we can't sell it to them all of the time. They're not permanently in market to buy from us. So we can't sell car insurance to somebody who's just renewed the policy. I can't sell a sandwich to somebody who's in hospital on nil by mouth. It's just impossible. So let's talk about our largest addressable qualified audience. And this is really a more complex way, but a more sophisticated way of talking about our total addressable market, our target market. What is it? What's the largest addressable qualified audience? It's the maximum number of people who meet specific criteria and can be effectively reached through our marketing campaigns. It focuses on the size and the relevance of the audience, how big it is, how likely they are to become a customer, and identifies that largest group of individuals who have the necessary attributes or characteristics to engage with us, with our product, our service, our message. And if we target this group, we can maximize the impact of those marketing efforts. We can get the strongest return. We can get the most out of the effort and cash that we put into our marketing. Ultimately, we optimize the return on investment. We focus on those people who are more likely to convert into customers or respond positively to our campaign. So 20, 30 years ago, it used to be really, really simple, I think, for marketers. I don't think the marketers who were around 20, 30 years ago would really agree. But really, in terms of market complexity, in understanding the customer, in terms of channels, in terms of advertising, there was a lot less to choose from. Didn't mean that creative was more difficult, it was easier, but there were 3 TV channels. I remember when there were 3. I remember when the 4th TV channel was launched. A dozen newspapers, a handful of commercial radio stations, maybe you had out of home, maybe you have direct mail. And how things have changed now, excuse the dull, boring Ofcom chart, but the data is really relevant. We're now looking at 86% of UK adults actively using the internet. And the average time online, if you see the circle here, very recently, a couple of years ago, was 3 hours, 37 minutes average spent on exposure to brands, ads, products, several hours a day in a way that offers significantly more variety and enrichment than previous methods for brands to communicate, engage, inform, educate that audience. So it means that the methods that marketers use have changed dramatically, mainly because the thought processes of the customer have changed dramatically. Our customer has the power of choice. They choose the type of content and media that they look to consume. This has really, really revolutionized how we engage, how we persuade, how we inform. So we talked about funnels, and Andrew's done a really good job, I think, of tearing apart the relevance of funnels. If we want to engage the customer, we really need to think about their journey with the brand. We've all seen AIDA, discovery, interest, sales funnels, awareness, conversion, many different models. And whilst you could always argue that there's some connection, some relevance to what a funnel represents, we shouldn't really be saying anything is dead, but that relevance of the funnel, that relevance of the linear journey has really been torn apart by modern digital marketing. Now, really, the contrast of the See, Think, Do, Care framework means that customers enter and exit this journey in all different places, in all different kinds of frames of mind, with all different intents on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour, and minute-by-minute basis. See, Think, Do, Care isn't just how to get people into a funnel. It really encompasses every aspect of how individuals engage with brands at different parts during their thought about what that brand wants to give them, wants to help them with, wants to sell them. Andrew used this slide with the messy middle earlier on, and I think it really fits at the heart and soul of why See, Think, Do, Care takes away the funnel out of our consideration, because really digital products, especially the smartphone, especially the device that we sit in our hands for 3 hours, 37 minutes every single day, means that we're exposed to research content, comparison content, immersion content, media from creators, media from brands. This messy middle now is this convoluted process that a consumer goes through when they're choosing to purchase a product, or even before they even start to really realize that that product is the thing that they want or they need. We come in at different points. We evaluate, we exit. We might leave the messy middle. We might move out of the buying phase. And we might come back into it a week later, a month later, or a year later. So with all of this, we understand the complexity of how customers make decisions, or we'd like to understand it. And there are hundreds of things that you could be doing right now as a marketer to try and reach your largest addressable qualified audience, things that you can be doing to connect to, speak to, engage your target market. But ultimately, with a finite marketing budget, and I would imagine that pretty much everybody here on this webinar today isn't a Coca-Cola with a pretty much infinite marketing budget, you really need to choose those battles wisely. You'll need to choose what wins, what delivers the best ROI. So you need to align your execution with your customer and their wants and needs. See, Think, Do, Care gives us a baseline framework to do the right things for the right people at the right time, because everybody wants you to advertise here. Social media would have you believe that you must be doing SEO, you must be doing email marketing, you must be doing LinkedIn events, you must be running webinars, but ultimately your strategy, your execution must be aimed towards the goal, towards your goal, towards your brand's goal, towards your company's financial goal, your strategy. And those goals need to be aligned to the customer needs. What will the customer do? Not an impetuous desire to do everything, to chop and change, to follow the flavor of the month, to do TikTok if your competitor does a TikTok, not a copycat approach to the last thing that the latest, greatest brand have been doing, because that must work because they're doing it. That's called spray and pray. That's doing every single type of marketing that you can get your hands on and doing lots of things, but none of them to a high standard and none of them aimed towards achieving your goals. So let's talk about what See, Think, Do, Care really is. What does it actually mean? Andrew's touched on it a little bit, so we'll expand on it a little bit more today. So here is the model. We'll see that we've got 3 segments into which we break down our largest addressable qualified audience. Everybody in that target market, I'll call it your audience for the sake of my voice, is in one of these stages. Technically, they can be in a couple at the same time, but we're not going to use that as a blocker today. People can fit in a couple of different phases at the time, but usually we take each segment and the activities that suit the people that are in that segment at a time. So I'm going to start on the right-hand side with what we've shown in green here, care. And those people, those members of our largest addressable qualified audience, our target market, are our loyal customers in care. Those who have bought from us twice, they've shown loyalty, and they already consider our brand when they make a purchase. If we're looking to engage these people, they do already know about us. So therefore, the activities that we need to undertake with the care audience need to reflect the fact that they already understand us, and we'll be undertaking activities that engage them a little bit more with that in mind. On the left-hand side, the see, think, and do segments. See is the largest group of our audience who are not showing intent right now. They're not showing buying intent. They're not specifically in market to buy what we have to sell. The think audience are those who are considering our proposition. They're showing some buying intent, some intent to explore the market, but they're not showing lots. They don't appear to be ready to buy right now. But the do audience, those who are in market right now, they're looking for a solution. They want to buy what we have. Maybe not from us, but from somebody. So our role with the do audience is to really capture and to work on the back of that buying intent. So to really look at what a couple of examples are, this is an example that has been around since the beginning of See, Think, Do, Care. So what we'll do, we'll look at See, Think, Do, Care, and what that means for instance, a B2C brand in the fashion industry. So the See audience could be anybody that wears clothes, are technically vaguely in market. They might buy, but they're not showing intent to buy. The Think audience for our fashion industry brand is anybody that could buy the product showing some commercial intent, which here means people that are wearing clothes and think that they may need some new ones. For instance, they may be going on holiday in a month or in 6 weeks, and the idea of them wearing the same old clothes that they wore last year, the year before, doesn't quite sit right with them. But they're not shopping right now. It's just their frame of mind. The do audience for the fashion industry are people that are wearing clothes and think they need some new ones now. Perhaps they're going on holiday on Saturday, tomorrow, and they need some new clothes right away. They're really in market and we're ready to jump on that demand. And the care audience are people that have bought clothes from us a couple of times. We might be a retailer and we might have a CRM with clients and customers that have bought from us twice. So to be really clear, our customers, our consumers, individuals can move around from phase to phase, from segment to segment at different times. This isn't a linear journey from top to bottom. It isn't presented as a funnel. It's not a single one-way journey. The state of mind of the customer at any time, specifically their intent to purchase, governs whether they're in see, think, do, care. And as Andrew mentioned, there are analogues to the funnel here. So we think of see as an awareness phase, an awareness state of mind. We think of think as a consideration state of mind. Do is a conversion state of mind. We're looking for that person to do the thing. We're looking to turn them into an action. And the care segment are about loyalty. It's about buying from us more frequently. And if we understand these stages, we can create a targeted strategy that accounts for these customers at different stages and build longer-term relationships. Very briefly, because we recognize that there are many different types of businesses, B2C, B2B, the very same principles apply to B2B businesses. This, for any business that's looking to engage with a customer base, the same principles apply. So for a legal industry business, the people in the C phase might be people with a commercial role in a business. Any MD, a CEO, an FD, at some point is likely to be in market for legal services, but maybe not today. The think market in a B2B legal setting, maybe people in a commercial role who are having discussions about M&A, a new contract with a large client, non-disclosure agreements. These things are going to need doing. We're going to have to discuss them, but we may not be engaging a law firm today. And the do audience, the people with a pressing need that need to get a contract signed today, need to have a discussion very soon about a deal or a merger, people that are ready to engage with that service. And care, similarly, is people that have engaged a couple of times previously. These same principles, the same segments apply to any business that has customers. So just to expand on them a little bit, see our largest addressable qualified audience cluster, they qualified to buy our service. We're not doing spray and pray. We're talking about that addressable qualified audience. These are the people that we can target. Counter that with perhaps regular conventional TV advertising, which puts a message in a platform, regardless of who's watching that channel. That is, whilst it has value for some brands, that is spray and pray, and it doesn't really conform to the see, think, do, care framework. There's no commercial intent. They may be viewing media and content related to the service, but they're not comparing, they're not evaluating suppliers. The think, showing some commercial intent, maybe conducting background research, how to do something. They may be comparing or evaluating different types of products. Showing interest, but not explicit buying intent. So we can produce and distribute education content for these that answers the questions that they have at that stage. And that content that we place strategically is governed so that it is surfaced by this audience segment when they're in that phase and online for that 3 hours 37 per day. So we're really looking for consideration for our proposition from these people. Covered do-off, again, these people are qualified, the segment are qualified to buy our service, but they're showing the significant commercial intent, actively looking to buy. And we're getting close to the till ringing here. They'll be evaluating suppliers, products, brands on price, size, reliability. Those last minute decisions that you make when you're working out whether supplier A or supplier B, product A or product B is the one that you're actually going to purchase. So these are the signals that we can act on, the activities that we undertake here if we want to be considered a supplier. Conversion is the goal. Then care, our current and former customers who've demonstrated loyalty to our brand, they've bought from us twice. And here the thought is that we don't need to necessarily look for customer intent and activity. We often know who they are. We can reach them by email and other means, by data and communications that we've got permission for. And often I think it's underwhelmingly exploited by marketers. So loyalty is key. We want that next purchase. It's well known that maintaining and nurturing existing customers is cheaper than winning new customers. And the care segment responds and reflects to that. So if we're a washing powder business, we want them to buy the next box from us. If we're a SaaS subscription business, we want to keep that user using our product to month 6, 12, 24. So really with See, Think, Do, Care, we're looking at the differences in the work we do, the inputs and outputs, and what we measure at different phases of that marketing plan. So practically, what does it mean? We'll look at a working example, a really high level view of See, Think, Do, Care, and we'll use running shoes. Most of us wear shoes of some sort. I don't know how many of our guests today go running, but we can probably all put ourselves roughly in the mind of somebody that's going to buy a pair of running shoes. So part one, what do we know about our audience clusters if we're a running shoe brand? So See, Think, Do, Care. We'll start to pull apart, and this repetition to recover the See, Think, Do, Care time and time again really drills that into our mind. So my C audience, I'm a runner. I occasionally buy running shoes. I read content relating to running and athletics. And I'm not in the market for running shoes right now. So we're not going to make these people buy. So what do? The largest segment of our largest addressable qualified audience, not showing signs of a purchase intent. We can't make them buy, but we must capture a share of their attention. We must be memorable. Our think audience for See, Think, Do, Care. What do we know about them? It might be my friend bought some new running shoes and he's told me about them. And he's forced me into a consideration stage now where I'm thinking if my friends bought some new running shoes, maybe mine are in need of replacement. So I'm curious to know whether I should buy trail shoes or road shoes. I might like running up the hill or I might like running around the block. What's the difference between cross-country and track shoes? Maybe I need to go and research this. I need to go and find out who's going to give me that information, which brand is going to provide it. There isn't a government body that gives me that information. So that's incumbent on brands to feed that content to me and answer those questions. And I'm researching whether Nike Air Jordan are any good for running. These are questions that I'll ask, and somewhere out there, somebody will be answering that question. This is the next largest segment of our audience. They're displaying some indications of researching the product or service. We probably can't force a purchase yet, but what we are able to do is connect our brand with the product that they're interested in. We're able to capture that mental availability, make sure that the brand awareness exists, and that when that user moves, as and when they do, into a do phase, when the time is right, at their pace, where external influences push them into a do phase, that our brand is forefront in their mind. And then our do audience. I want to buy some running shoes right now. I'm looking for somewhere I can buy shoes from. I'm trying to find the best price for the pair of shoes that I've chosen. I'm making detailed comparison between very specific pairs of shoes so I don't buy the wrong ones. But I've narrowed that really down to maybe one, maybe two different pairs, different models that I know suit my needs. I've done most of my research, and now is the time to part with my hard-earned cash. So these people are actively looking to purchase now. We need to be primed to activate that purchase opportunity, making us really easy to buy from. So our care audience, what do we know about them? I bought some running shoes from brand X. I want to maintain them in good condition. I want to check how many kilometers that they're likely to last now I've bought them. These people have shown loyalty to our brand, and if we want to retain that loyalty, then we need to make sure we have activity campaigns that will reward and nurture that loyalty. But let's expand on that now. We know who our customers are. We know the characteristics that define those parts of the audience. So how do we build up targeting channel and measurement plans for each segment of the See, Think, Do, Care framework? What do we do? So in the next few slides, we'll cover the case study and hypothetically, at a very simple level, what the signals, targeting, messaging, channel and metrics might look like for each stage of that journey. Speak to the 4 key categories that you see on the screen. We've got the signals, so the cues, the actions, the demographics that we need to consider for each stage of the See, Think, Do, Care framework. Targeting, how we segment the audiences based on affinity or in-market audience data, in particular those of you who are using paid media campaigns. Messaging and channels, what do we say? Where do we place it? Where does that message go? And then the KPIs and metrics, the outcome we want to achieve, crucially how we measure it. Honorable mention here to a measurement strategy. Optimizing resources, minimizing waste, and promoting trust is crucial. We all love doing the stuff, but measurement and evaluation of that data is absolutely crucial. And it's often the reason why marketers are drawn from pillar to post, just because often that measurement isn't in the right place. It's impossible to measure the effectiveness of campaigns for a C audience by revenue, for instance. So Google search engine rankings positions don't give an effective benchmark for do audience performance, because there we're looking for revenue, we're looking for cash in the till. So our C audience, we're looking for athletic adults showing no immediate intent. We'll target our audience based on their age and gender, depending on the campaign or product we're looking to promote. We may use platform segments such as physical fitness on Facebook to directly reach consumers. Our message for the C audience is really around branding and awareness rather than taking a direct action and doing the thing. And we want to measure that awareness however we can. So if we're investing in activity, we'll want to report back the reach, impressions on social campaigns, social engagement, views, likes, shares, metrics that don't relate to transactions, but actually show us who's seeing our content, how much share of voice are we getting in that wider marketplace, video views and website visits. So usually these metrics aren't going to interest the chief financial officer. They're very much top of funnel. For our Think audience, people that we think are showing some intent to buy, but not ready to purchase straight away. So we can maybe tap into search traffic here. So search, organic search and paid search really don't help us with C very often, because if that user is showing little or no intent to buy, it's unlikely that they're conducting searches around the topics that are relevant to our product. At this think stage where the user's showing intent, SEO and content marketing are really, really strong here. Users are reading articles on third-party websites, watching running related videos, maybe not product related, maybe not commercial, but content around running, around their hobby, around their particular form of running. Our in-market categories may be sports and fitness. And these in-market audiences usually might like to Google to predict purchase intent, but it's different to the next two audience where we start to see our own. Messaging to think is really products and solutions on USPs rather than brand. But we may use remarketing, display and video to accomplish this. So when we're now coming to measure using the KPIs for the Think audience, we're starting to look at engagement and consideration of our proposition. So are we getting repeat visitors? Can we measure that consideration by repeat visitors? What are the click-through rates and cost per click, product page views, and even product reviews here as consumers compare products against others and evaluate brands? So it's just a rapid fly through at high level, but we really think about the more considered actions now and not just count how many times they saw our ad. Now we move to do. This is really where the money and the revenue starts to come in, because we want athletic adults showing high purchase intent, people ready to buy. So our signals really are users viewing product pages. So what interest have we got in the product itself? What are the search terms around the product? Longer tail, sizes, delivery. Can we see that people are really looking to compare us as a vendor for our running shoe? So we'd optimize the targeting here for high intent searches, and over time refine our attention to the highest converting campaigns and keywords that we could connect to purchase behavior. So messaging at this point can be focused on pricing, discount, offers, building trust to push potential customers over the line. And the channels become much more focused, in this case, on paid search. So Google ads, Bing ads, and shopping. So we're really measuring our do audience on revenue, transactions, average order value, conversion rate. We're getting very commercial now. So these are the numbers which we would take to the board. And last but not least, the care audience. It differs a little bit to the previous segments, as these are existing customers. We've already done a lot of the hard work in the other segments previously to turn them into a customer the first time. So care assumes that that customer isn't showing any purchase intent. This customer can move into one of the other segments. Again, a user can be in multiple segments, particularly if they're already in care. Most businesses understand that it's easier to keep that customer, so we can use CRM to identify existing customers. We generally have this data. We can deliver messaging that specifically aims at retaining customers, continues to build loyalty and trust in our brand. We often have email, we might have SMS, we might be able to build warranty and product protection campaigns to really keep our customer thinking about the product and what it means to them. So for measurement, we might talk about lifetime value. How much do we earn from a customer through their tenure with us, whether we're a sports shoe company, a SaaS telecoms business, or a chartered accountant? So just tearing this down a little bit, we're still looking at the different types of work we do across See, Think, Do, Care, the different inputs and outputs, the work that we generate and the results that we see, and what we're measuring, what we're reporting, how we're evaluating whether our campaigns for each stage of the See, Think, Do, Care framework is delivering results. What's working, what's not? What do we optimize? What do we stop doing and revisit? Marketing is expected to do everything all at once. And if we break down our intent stages, we can make a difference where it counts, ensuring we invest our finite resources at the right stage of that customer journey. So Andrew talked about micro moments, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this and expand a little bit on the moments that matter, which is a key part of See, Think, Do, Care. And there used to be a real focus on audience personas. It was something that senior marketers would spend an awful lot of time looking at Ollie, Mary, what car do they drive, what jewelry do they wear, have they got a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom house, you know, that kind of stuff. But really now we focus on micro moments, the things that people do, regardless of their job, the newspaper they read, the color of their hair. Personas can still have a place when it comes to messaging, tone and brand in a different way. So we do need to understand whether our product is being sold to teenage girls across Europe or middle-aged men in the south of England, and really have a feel for the characteristics of the people that buy the product. But that doesn't form the signal and the targeting for all our marketing activity. It's certainly not a one-size-fits-all. And in the digital world, they can be really, really misleading if prioritized. So if we understand these micro moments, particularly weighted towards the think stage of See, Think, Do, Care, when a customer's evaluating, when they're starting to make a purchase decision, when they're starting to show buying intent, we can start to create content and experiences that help people find the information they need to make a decision, to push them over the line, to convert them into advocates for our brand. So this can include product reviews, demos, tutorials, other forms of helpful content. So the first moment I want to know is when somebody's exploring and researching a product or a service. Many consumers are more interested in the answer than when they get the answer, and it offers us the first chance to respond and build trust. So in this case, Google search results are particularly useful here for I want to know the answer. So take advantage of that if you're working on search marketing. I want to go when somebody's searching for a physical location, such as a store or a restaurant. They might want directions, hours of operation. I want to do. So the moment when somebody's trying to learn how to do something, fix a leaky tap, repair a puncture, learn a new recipe. As you can see on the screenshot, we're showing the tools here that help them complete the job, not the part itself. And I want to buy, the moment when somebody's ready to make a purchase, looking for the best deal, comparing prices, or trying to find the best product. So here, the sale is up for grabs. The intent is high, and you're really tapping into your do audience. So a really quick view on the channel map. This really helps us to understand which particular channels, which activities really help us. I won't dwell too much on reading out the entire slide, but we'll see that in C, the aim is to get the brand in front of customers, social media, display, content marketing, maybe influencer marketing. Think, we're using SEO, paid search, remarketing, retargeting, sometimes email if we actually have access to customer data, and comparison sites, TripAdvisor, Yelp, and the likes. In the do stage, we're really encouraging the customer to take action and make a purchase. So some effective channels might be your own website, your e-commerce platform, conversion rate optimization of your own platform. This is work that you're doing to make those people ready to buy and buy more. Discount codes, promotions, stimulants to encourage greater purchase and cross purchase. And then care, so email marketing, social media, loyalty programs, warranty registration, referrals, how-to videos for customers who bought a product. Different channels, different content fits different parts of the see, think, do, care framework. So I'm just going to draw us to a conclusion. What we've talked about very quickly today is our largest addressable qualified audience, the number of people with the characteristics and the intent ultimately that can purchase from us. We break the 4 stages of see, think, do, care and what they mean to the brand. And we've emphasized that see, think, do, care is not a linear funnel. We've talked about the moments that matter and you and your brand understanding what are the jobs that our customers need to do for which we can create helpful, reactive, responsive content that meets that need head on and puts our brand at the forefront, creates that mental availability so that our brand is foremost in their mind when ultimately they need to buy the thing. And then we've looked very quickly at the different channels and how those different channels lend themselves to different stages of see, think, do, care in different ways. It's a really simple guide, and there are always reasons that some campaigns will buck the trend. And here's a quote from one of my favorite marketers, Seth Godin: "Your mileage will vary." Yeah, this isn't a cheat sheet for instant marketing success. A framework is never an instruction sheet that fits everybody. You need to understand that you can break your largest addressable qualified audience into distinct segments based on where they are in the buying journey, the things that you do, the content that you produce, and how you measure them will change accordingly. And that's it. So we're going to bring Andrew back in now, and we're going to tackle some questions. I think we may have a few questions from our audience. I mean, first of all, Andrew, I'll wait till you jump back in.
I'm here.
Hi, Andrew.
I'll let you into the secret. This is a photo of a venue. I like it quite. It's where we delivered in Amsterdam for Google with one of their teams. But I'm not there today. But I'm not a million miles away from you. But it's still as sunny. But
you do go to all the best places, Andrew. You really do.
Well, I did pre-pandemic. I was thinking about more about sustainability and carbon literacy these days. I mean, but that's a whole different topic.
Fantastic. I'll start, Andrew. If I can bring a question to you. What mistakes do you think that marketers make as they're starting to maybe try and embrace see, think, do, care and move away from personas and funnels? What do you think that maybe the biggest errors are?
I don't think it's an error. I think, but what I think you generally find is that you think, yeah, I get signals. I think I understand data, but I'm not in a position to activate my data accurately. And I think that, it's very timely when we talk about moving to Google Analytics and it's GA4, isn't it? That we need to think about moving. It's just making sure that if we're going to go on this journey, you've got to think about what type of data do I have? What do I have the kind of reporting that I can access it, and can I act upon that data accordingly? Because I think setting the benchmark right is very, very important. Because as a lot of the things you were discussing about in C, you think, God, the general problem I have with let's create brand awareness. My rather trite response is that, well, what does that look like? What do you mean by awareness? Who's aware? When? How do you know? And therefore, in that instance, we're talking about proxy measures. We're talking about, it's a bit like saying the happiness index. How can you measure happiness of a nation? Well, you can't directly, but you can think about how many hours of sunshine, how wealthy they are, how many weeks holiday do they have, mortality rate, all those things are proxy measures. So I think that what you got to say is don't fall into the trap of saying, well, how are we going to measure what's happening at the C phase? And it is about thinking about some of those things you described. How many people have liked an ad? How many people have viewed a video? And begin to think about the journey, think about measuring those things, and don't beat yourself up too much too early on to think, I don't think I've got as measurable set of criteria in each of the phases, because it is your measurement and your use of this different methodology is a journey in itself. And you do need to be kind to yourself along this and think, well, I'll never get to it, or it's not perfect. It's better than it was before.
And I think going back to the last slide that I used in my deck there, Andrew, your mileage will vary. And it really is a case of understanding, well, what is the performance that I get out of my campaigns, my own interpretation of the framework, and am I measuring the right things? We've got a question from Sua. What's an ideal budget for ads? I'll jump in there first. And I think it's pretty much impossible, I think, for us to give what our budget is in terms of a financial value, but ultimately budgets for ads should be really formed upon generating an ROI, return on ad spend, making sure that you're not spending more on advertising than profit you're generating from those campaigns. But also, I think if we tie it back into See, Think, Do, Care, understanding which parts of the See, Think, Do, Care audience segments we're actually going to aim ad campaigns at and what the intention of that advertising is. Usually for paid search ads, paid search, we're really talking about the do audience. For paid social ads, for the brand discovery, we'll often be in the see and think phase. So it's a case of really looking at, well, what's the uplift in revenue that we're looking to generate? What's the size of our business? What's our current revenue? For a start, what proportion are we able to invest in that media? And ultimately, what's the impact? What's the impact on our business that we're looking to create with this campaign? So, for instance, if we're looking to if we've got 10 customers today and we're looking to find 100 new customers in the next 6 months, we're going to have a really significant budget to invest there. That's probably going to eclipse our current turnover. If we're looking to grow our business by 5% over the next 12 months, then our ad budget is going to be a smaller proportion. As I say, we can't really put a number on it without looking at the business itself.
You must have read my note in the chat, because you just expanded on it, tenfold, Leon, because I answered.
Oh, excellent.
So it's a good thing that even though we're apart, we are aligned, which is good. I noticed
always together, aren't we?
It's an interesting one that Gregory's asked about. Many organizations just map See, Think, Do, Care and IED and consider it only a different way of phrasing things. Yeah, and do you know what, Gregory? I don't think that's wrong or bad, because I think that clearly there is a relationship. This is not rocket science, but I think rather than it being a different way of phrasing things, I think it just provides a different lens with which to look at our audience and their level of intent. And therefore, I think if we can take it that little bit further and saying it's not the same but different, it's the same but a different way of thinking about intent rather than likelihood. Just think about, my point is all about, AIDA is all about helping you think about your customer segment and their likelihood to buy from you and how you move them without really knowing much more. What this is all about, what Leon and I have been talking to you about, is all around intent. And we could never do that before. It is magic. And therefore, to underplay an attempt to include intent as a part of our marketing communication activity now will ultimately put you at a competitive disadvantage. And none of us want that.
Precisely. You could never work on intent if you place a full page ad in the Sunday Mirror in 1989, could you? It's just simply not available to you. That brings us to a close. I'm very conscious of the time. Thanks ever so much, Andrew, for joining us today. Thanks for being a fantastic panelist here as we've explored See, Think, Do, Care. Hopefully we'll have you again in future. The recording to answer the question will be available on the Door4 website later today. Puts under a little bit of pressure to crack on with that. We've also been broadcasting live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. Keep an eye on for TikTok and Snapchat. The last thing I'm going to say is we really hope that those of you who are in the Northwest can join us for our next event, which is on the 13th of July at Turf Moor, Burnley. The event is Target Market Matrix that ties in really, really neatly with See, Think, Do, Care, because when we talk about the concept of largest addressable qualified audience, that event, which is about 90 minutes to 2 hours at Turf Moor, really is about understanding what is that audience, what are the characteristics that we use to define them, and how do we go and find them. So that's the 13th of July. Thanks, Andrew. I've been Leon Calverley. This is Door 4 Decoding Digital, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.